I'm going to be the cameraman. They're going to be our audience.
Video games have become increasingly violent year after year, and that has been a big contributing factor in the increase in violence in our youth today. Violent video games can lead to aggressive behavior. Kids are more likely to be bullied to bully in school. For example, in 2007, 32% of students reported being bullied, up from 5% in 1999. That's a large increase in almost 10 years' time, jumping from 5% to 32%. Also, in another study in 2008, a study labeled Grand Theft Childhood, based on the game Grand Theft Auto, which is one of the most violent video games I've ever seen. It was reported that 60% of middle school aged boys who have played at least one M-rated game have hit or beat up someone, versus 39% of boys who didn't play M-rated games. Is that what you want your children to do? I don't want my boys to play these M-rated games if it's going to lead to bullying in school. Violence in video games can also lead to aggressive behavior. For example, school shootings are also to be blamed for kids who play violent video games. One prime example is the Columbine incident. I'm sure everybody has heard about the Columbine incident. It was on April 20th, 1999. 13 people from Columbine High School were killed by two teenage shooters, revealed to be avid players of weapon-based combat games, Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. Those are M-rated games, and the boys just lived and played those games, and they turned it into real life and wanted to see what it'd be like to go kill as many people as they could in their school, and then they realized what they had done, and they ended up killing themselves in the end. And that's a prime example of what M-rated games can do to your children. I certainly don't want it to happen to my children. Kids are also desensitized to violence when they are exposed to violent video games. One study shows that exposure to violent video games has been linked to the reduction of P300 amplitudes in the brain. What is P300 amplitudes? It's the positive going electrical activity of the brain. The reduction of P300 amplitudes has also been found in people with social disorders, ADHD, and a family history of alcoholism. Is this what we want for our children? If not, we have a choice, and in this case, we do. Violent video games are also linked to the increase in violence towards women. Here, for example, a 1998 study found that 21% of games sampled are involved in violence against women, and that was 15 years ago. Imagine if the numbers have at least doubled in that time. That would leave 42% of games are against women, are portraying violence and negativity towards women, and I certainly don't want my kids playing those types of games that are going to lead to negativity towards women. For example, I have here, there's a cartoon where it says the father sitting in the front on a chair reading a newspaper labeled "School Shooting." It says, "Where do we learn to be? Where do kids learn to be so violent?" And it shows the little boy back behind him playing video games. That's a perfect example of the father not watching his child and seeing what he's playing, and I'm sure he's probably playing an M-rated game and he doesn't even know it. And for another example, I heard of a child who had these 3 objects in front of him, and he called them his weapons, but they weren't really weapons. It was a spatula that he said was his sword, and he had a ball, which was his bomb, and he had a pair of sunglasses that was his X-ray glasses that were ready to kill anybody. I certainly don't want. I certainly can imagine being the father of that child and seeing him running around playing and those types of things like that. Another example, I was witness. I went into a doctor's office, and this little boy, he went up behind his sister, and instead of just playing, regular games and pretending to shoot and running around having fun like normal little kids should do, he grabbed her sister from behind, put a gun to his finger to her head, and grabbed her and pretended like he was going to shoot her in the head and drag her away. And I'm sure that's a prime example of where video games, violence in video games has made him do that. Well, video games have become increasingly violent Video games often reward players for stimulating violence, thus enhancing the learning of violent behaviors in all who play. Is this what you want for your children? Are there any questions?
I have a question. In the you said that 21% of the games sampled were involved in violence against women. What games were they looking at? How are they looking at that?
Well, the games sampled were the 33 most popular Nintendo and Sega Genesis video games. 28% of these games portrayed women as sex objects with aggression or violence as part of the object or strategy.
Also, what is the M stand for mature?
Oh, the M stand is M stands for mature, and it has a 17 plus rating, which it states blood and gore, intense violence, strong language, strong sexual content, and use of drugs. That's certainly a game I don't want my child to play. I don't know what other people would think, but that's not something I want my child to play.
James, how do we get rid of these games?
The only thing I can think of is we get together and we write our congressman and have them take these games away that are destroying our children. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for listening, and I hope this will persuade you to pay attention to the games that your children are playing and not let them play these types of games.